I went to LOK 47's show, and she's this amazing rapper that wears like a mask, like a balaclava. Balaclava, is that what it's called? Baklava is the dessert.
Own. Oh, baklava.
No, that's the dessert. Balaclava. Maybe that's a Canadian word.
Okay,
I never know sometimes.
I've never heard of this word before.
It's like the ski robber like kind of mask.
Oh, like a ski mask.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. We call them balaclavas.
Okay. What's up, everyone? Today I am here with LOK, and we're going to be learning more about him and his music career. So I know you were born in Vancouver. Do you want to tell me a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, I grew up in Canada on the West Coast. Really chill, really nice place to grow up, I think. I mean, super international, dope food. You could like hit the mountains within half an hour or be at the water within 15 minutes.
Ooh.
So it's kind of like...
It's like California, but smaller?
Yeah, so it's kind of like the Bay a little bit, just a little colder and like a little more rain. So it's kind of like the Bay, I think, is that like people sometimes say that it reminds them of SF.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, I grew up, like, spent most of my life there. Canada's a really big place, as people kind of know. So like we would just go on like little road trips and stuff and like go around there.
Are you a big nature guy?
I think you kind of have to be if you're Canadian. It's like it's required to be a citizen. So like for where like the bar is, like the average, I'm probably less because I really like big cities and the vibrance and the culture.
Okay.
But I mean, I do mess with like, you know, like hikes or whatever, like
casual nature.
Casual nature, you know, like whatever, going up the Culver Stairs, if that's like
the Culver Stairs. Very casual nature.
Yeah, exactly.
And growing up, how did you get introduced to EDM, or when did you start listening to that?
So I was I had a buddy that like DJ'd at some like random spots, and I was in college. I think I was like freshman year, and I like it's kind of a funny story. Like I lost my fake ID like the first time I tried to use it because I just looked like a 12-year-old, of course. And I was like, dang, like, so everyone's going out and I got all this time on my hands. So I started hanging out in like old school like record stores just because I like, you know, I wasn't hitting the clubs like back then. So then I had some buddies that like did a couple nights, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And I sort of like got into it on that side, and they were all like kind of like traditional turntable guys.
Okay.
So I sort of like got into it from that side and like,
oh, wow,
like learned on like vinyl, and I was always like kind of slow to move to like, I don't know, you know, even like USBs. I didn't switch to sticks until playing at Splash House, and like everything was like, until I played at Splash House and like everything was freaking out because of the heat. It was like 115 or whatever.
Yeah, it's so hot.
So necessity, like I'm slow moving sometimes.
What school did you go to?
I went to University of British Columbia, UBC.
Oh, okay. So there. What was your major then?
English literature. I thought I was gonna be a teacher. Yeah, I thought I was gonna become a teacher or like maybe a journalist, but that industry got kind of hit pretty hard, so that didn't really, you know, pan out.
When did you start taking music more seriously?
So I was sort of like playing at this club in Van that started to have these other DJs come through, and actually like Oliver, or half of Oliver, who went by U-Turn before he like joined up and made the duo project. He's also from up there, and so he was one of the residents, and I was playing there more and more, and kind of started supporting. Like this was kind of around when just after like, I guess like Justice and like Breakbot were like coming on the scene, and we were all like really excited about this music, and it wasn't really like big yet, but it was like something fresh, right? So I kind of was like, this is dope. When I started doing, it was kind of like mashups, and I started just doing like blends and things like that to play in my sets to have, you know, some extra juice. And you know, I went from there to start doing like more like bootleg remixes, and like pretty organically, and eventually over time, like after making like a million terrible tracks, they started to get less terrible. So, and that's, I don't know, it was just kind of like over time, I used to like send them out to different DJs and like radio shows and be like, play my shit, like whatever, right? Like it's, just like
play or you die.
Yeah, like the cliche, yeah, exactly, right? So some people did start like playing them, and then and then eventually like I started getting booked like outside of Vancouver. I think like Seattle and Denver were like two of the first places that I played outside of my hometown or outside of Canada, and I was like obviously super pumped on that.
Yeah. And when did you move to LA?
So this is like my fourth year. I've been coming down to play for a while, and so it became like more familiar because obviously it's like poppin' for music has been for a long time, and so I would come down, play a show maybe at like I think early days I would play at Sound or something, or play at Splash House, and then stay for like the week, crash a couch and like write some music with some other people that were in town. And I really liked that culture because Vancouver's like, for all it has to offer, it's like pretty small, and obviously everyone's always coming through here, even not just people that are based here. So I was really attracted to that, and realized that it would be a little easier to tour because I was starting to tour a bit more, and like going from Vancouver to DC or New York or whatever is a lot more difficult than going from LA. Yeah. So you can put together a tour or a shorter tour like really quick.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I kind of made the jump, and it's kind of funny to think that it's already been like 4 years and change.
Did you ever have a job out of college that wasn't music, or was it just straight from college?
Yeah, no, I had a job. I was like, had a desk job, like working in a cubicle, and was like kind of doing off the side of my desk, like go, work all day and then go home and then just like work on music till midnight or 1 or whatever, 3 hours a night.
So you're very passionate.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't know what was gonna happen, but I could see that, like, especially once I started picking up my first radio plays, like I think someone played, like I think Monkey played this Cashmere Cat bootleg I did on like Radio 1. I was like losing my mind. So when that happened, I was like, maybe I can do more, or like maybe I can get better and make more original music and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess and then at one point I was like, maybe I might have to like make a decision here, because I was starting to get some touring requests and things that were going to conflict with like my work schedule. So then I sort of took a bit of a jump.
And went full time.
And went full time. Yeah.
It's exciting. Making music for how many, since college, right? So is that like?
Yeah, I mean I was bad. I don't even want to count that stuff.
I want to hear like one of your original tracks.
Oh
just to
goodness. I was in like FL, and there's so much bad. Oh my goodness, I'm like cringing so hard right now. But
all you have to say is like, oh my goodness, and like no other comment.
yeah, exactly. No, so I've probably been making like original music for like maybe about 8 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And it's fun because I think like the process changes over time, like how you want to work and what you want to focus on with your craft.
What was your process before, and what is it now, or what has changed?
I'm gonna switch sides on you. I think before I would just throw whatever at the board and see like what stuck and what wasn't the worst, and then I became more intentional with like what I was trying to do. So I think think about a show, or when I started the tour, it'd be like, what would, for example, there was this really dope club in DC called U Street Music Hall, and it was a place that like was consistently on like top 10 like clubs, like dance clubs in like the US. Oh, wow. And it was a place that I had always wanted to play, and eventually I did play there a couple times, and I was really inspired by that show and by the vibe, and so like on the plane back home I wrote like pretty much most of this demo that became a record, which I called U Street, like because in DC all the streets are lettered with like letters
A to Z.
Exactly.
All the states.
Exactly. And then but I just called it U Street with like a YOU, and that became like kind of one of my favorite records. So I guess more like context-driven stuff over the years.
I feel like you're a lot more like tactical now.
Yeah.
Or, like analytical, like very like.
Totally.
Yeah. So now, would you say you start out with the beat first, or like melody first, or?
So, I did like a bit of piano until I was like 11.
I feel like it's such an Asian thing.
Such an Asian thing.
I'm just gonna
right?
throw that in there.
Yeah. It wasn't a choice, but I had to do it. But now I'm glad, like, you know, because I have like the ear, and actually just bought Black Friday. I was nothing to do with Black Friday, but actually just bought a piano.
Oh, nice.
Like this old upright, and the guy like delivered it to my house, and it's like the first piano that I've bought.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of pumped on that, and like, why didn't I do this before? Like,
At least you have a piano. I played piano as a kid, but I forgot. I forgot how to play. It's over. It's game over for me already.
You can get it back. Like, I'm just happy to like, yeah, just have it in the house. I mean, obviously, like I have synths and things like that in the studio, but it's no, you know, it's just you can't replicate, you know, the feel. It's the vibes.
Yeah.
So I usually start, or I think over the years, typically I'll start just like messing around with chords or seeing if a melody will stick, and then maybe I'll either record that in like voice memos, or I'll just go over to the computer and I'll like replay it on like a MIDI keyboard or something, or I'll layer it and then and go from there.
Now a grand keyboard.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's like, sometimes I'm inspired by music that I see. Well, no, often I think I'm inspired by like going to see music, and I think more like live performances than DJ. I love a great DJ set, but I think I'm more inspired by a lot of live shows, and sometimes I think artists will really express themselves in a very direct and like open way that sometimes it'll spark something. Like I was just in New York, and I was at Elsewhere playing, or not, I wasn't playing at Elsewhere, but on this show, but I went to LOK 47's show, and she's this amazing rapper that wears like a mask, like a balaclava, is that what it's called? Baklava is the dessert.
Own. Oh, baklava.
No, that's the dessert. Balaclava. Maybe that's a Canadian word. I never know sometimes.
I've never heard of this word before.
It's like the ski robber like kind of mask.
Oh, like a ski mask.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. We call them balaclavas.
Okay.
Anyway, so she wears this, and she's got like the closest thing I could describe her as like kind of a 2021 version of like Missy. She's so dope.
I think I have seen this before. I think someone, is she on YouTube?
Yeah, she's doing pretty well. Like I think she sold out that show.
Oh, wow.
But she was like really open and like talking about different things, and like there was a phrase that she said that I don't even remember what it was. It just like kind of struck a chord with me, so to speak, and I like whipped out like my voice memos, and like I think I had like a melody in mind. Just like the thing, it was before she even was like singing a song. She was just talking to the audience, and so things like that will sometimes give you inspiration.
Yeah.
Which is why it's nice to have shows again, I think.
To be able to see live and see what's out there and see the talent.
And feel the energy,
yeah,
you know, of other people that are just, you know, really into it from that side, and not just, I mean, obviously I missed performing. I think, you know, everyone did.
Yeah. Did you get to perform more this year?
This year's been pretty good, actually. Yeah, I just opened for Zed in Chicago on Halloween, and then I went. I played it elsewhere actually a couple months ago in New York, and then I went back to do this show at Disclosure. And I went to Portugal and played this show with Cassian and the Magician. That was fun. So it's like coming back. I think the industry is sort of finding its feet again. A lot of the tours and places that we would like count on, some places didn't make it, sadly. Like across the country and across the world, honestly. But you do your best to like evolve and adapt, you know? Yeah,
it's kind of sad seeing what closed down, and like some like iconic places you'll never be able to go to again. I'm just like, but it is what it is. What are some of your current projects? I know you're signed with Kitsune.
So I was.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, well actually, so I was with them for 5 years. I put out like an album full length and like 2 EPs, I think. No, maybe correct me on that. And then I finished our deal, and then this year I've been doing a lot of singles. Like I did a couple things with Club Sweat, like Club Sweat is the dance imprint of Sweat It Out.
Okay.
So they do like, I don't know, Purple Disco Machine, like they're still like home to like Rufus. They're like, yeah, massive. Like Yolanda Be Cool, I think is like one of the heads of that label. So I've been dropping some stuff with them. I did a single with like a one-off with the Magician's label on Potion. Just kind of, it's almost like coming out of a relationship or something, you know. I'm like playing the field and like seeing, you know, drop a single.
Aren't you
here.
Working with PT Songs too, or?
So PT Songs has been my publisher. They're my publisher for like under Cobalt for like probably about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And yeah, so right now I'm sort of like enjoying this freedom to see, like do some different experimenting. Like I've done more collabs than ever. I think a lot of people.
You're working a lot with Party Pupils.
Yeah, Party Pupils has become a good friend. Like we met for the first time at Electric Forest in 2018. And although we had already technically sort of done a collab, which never came out, just like we followed each other on Twitter. And this is kind of the beautiful thing. Like he was talking about doing a remix of like Aha, Take On Me, and I was like, that sounds kind of cool. Like I have an idea for that. So I didn't even know him. I just like went to the piano or the studio and like put down some chords and played like a thing and sent it over, and I was like, oh, like what do you think of this? And he was like, oh, this is dope. And then he took it and ran with it, and then we did this bootleg together, and we never even dropped it, but that was our first connection.
Wow.
And then we met up in Michigan at Electric Forest because we were both playing, and then came back to LA and did our first record together, which was with Dances from the Back. And over lockdown, like he was in New York a lot. I think I was back in Vancouver for Christmas, and he was like, you know, what are you working on? Whatever, throwing some ideas back and forth, and we just cranked out like a bunch of demos. Like, So Fine, we ended up, which came out earlier this year, and then we did these other two, which we just dropped in Club Sweat, Alaska, and I Want You. And there's like more. I don't know what we're gonna do with it all, but it's just nice to have that flow again to bounce, bounce things off of.
Have someone to work with and get more ideas from.
Yeah, and just be like, what is, because when you're in a silo like by yourself all day, you really have to like know what's going on. But then when you remove like the shows and other context,
you're really alone.
it can be challenging, right?
Yeah. To
know what's good or what's not.
To get inspiration too.
Also that. So it's been a real treat working together with Party Pupils. I'm sure we'll work together more. And then someone else I've been working with is a producer named Brooks, and she's Australian, just moved to New York. And I think so I found her music on Dimmock, and I didn't know anything about her. Realized that like there were a couple different records that I was playing out in sets, and then she ended up doing like a remix of my record Freefall, I guess a couple years ago now, and then we linked up, I think just over Zoom, and started doing like live writing sessions.
You meet a lot of like people virtually.
Yeah, absolutely, and we just had like a really chill flow and chemistry with writing together, because she sings, but she's also like a super dope producer. She can play like keys a little bit, so kind of complementary skill sets. And so we've done like a few demos. I think something that we did together is going to be coming out on like Boys Noise Records.
Oh.
It's like it's way harder. Some of the stuff that we've done is like a lot harder than like what I've been making.
Okay.
Which is fun.
Yeah, something different.
Like why not experiment, right?
Yeah, I guess that leads to my next question: is what's upcoming for you? What else? Any shows?
Yeah, so I've kind of just been on the road for like the last month, but now I'm back. I'm really excited to finish some of this music that is like halfway done or whatever. I'm kind of doing some like almost classic like disco-y house stuff that I won't spoil just yet. I'm pretty excited about that. Finishing some of these collabs. I've been kind of dipping my toe in like the music like NFT space and seeing like just to sort of switch it up.
What are you doing with NFTs?
So I did this drop on Catalog, which is this music NFT platform built on Zora, which is kind of a larger platform for NFTs. And we actually put out Alaska first before it dropped on Spotify. Yeah, I had the idea to try and experiment with like some of these new platforms and see what was going on.
And how was that going for, or how did that go for you?
It went really well. Like, so secretly,
which way should we go?
Let's go this way.
Okay.
My whole idea was we were gonna drop this 2-tracker with Club Sweat, and usually only one of the songs gets like big support or big, like playlisted or whatever.
Okay.
And it seemed like I Want You was the the lead side, but we both really liked Alaska or like Alaska. So we were like, what else can we do around it to give it a little bit more shine? And I was talking to Ryan about it, and we were like talking about the sort of visuals it might evoke. And so we were like, cool, like this we both are on the same page here. Why don't we try out a drop for the first time?
Yeah.
Or for him, at least. I've done one other one. And so we put it up on Catalog, and we had some other like goodies to go along with it, because I think it's also nice to have some bonuses, extras. So like the winner of the NFT would have access to like a special playlist that we would make, like stuff that we're playing maybe in sets, and then also have access to hear some like exclusive demos or like works in progress or even just sketches, and as well as access to any show that either of us was playing while they were like, as long as they didn't transfer, this NFT to someone else.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
there are a few different things going on. There's even like custom, like one-of-one, like in-ear monitors.
Oh wow.
That we just have to get produced. But we have that already sorted. So anyways, there was like a mini bidding war on it, which is kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
And I think we're really happy with how it turned out. So,
would you do more?
Yeah, I think that I'm gonna continue to like play around and experiment with this stuff. Like, I don't know where it's gonna end up, and I don't think anyone does.
Yeah.
But
it's such a gray area right now. Like, unknown space.
Exactly. Like, it's sort of like when SoundCloud was kind of coming up, and like people kind of knew there was like an energy around it. This is a little different. Like, I'm also pretty familiar with Audius, and which was founded. One of the founders was worked on or co-founded Ausla with Skrillex.
Okay.
And so I've been helping out on this volunteer committee, just trying to support other artists. Like, they basically give grants in Audius to people that are sometimes putting on events, but sometimes doing remixes or competitions and things like that. And so that's been kind of cool. I think we're just in this period right now where things are changing in a big way due to a lot of factors around the world.
Yeah.
And it's a time to try experimenting, and that's sort of what growth is. And I'm kind of ready for, some things aren't going to work out.
Yeah.
Like I figured, but that's okay too, right?
Just always gonna be change, so it's a good thing. It won't work out, you learn from it, you move on, you keep going.
I mean, it's that, or just do, TikToks every day and try to go viral, which is
with your
not.
Mixes.
Yeah, exactly, right?
There's so many of the famous mix DJs on TikTok. I found quite a bit of them, and I was just wow, they're actually
oh, with they'll use 4 CDJs or something and do a loop, and then
they just do a remix and just post that, so that song, if it gets trending, a lot of people start using that sound. That's how they become famous.
Oh, okay.
There's this one guy, I think his Sick Kick mix or something.
Okay.
He always has a red glittery mask on.
Yeah.
And that was just a bunch of different mixes. It's very interesting. It's very different.
So does is it all original productions, or is it
it's
recognizable?
Yeah.
Okay. Bootleg stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's a thing. I mean, that's cool. If you can do whatever you want to do to gain some traction, and then maybe hit them with your album or whatever after. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting time for new and emerging artists, because no one knows. Labels don't necessarily know. They just want someone to go viral, but that's not an artistic vision. It's not
So So what are your thoughts on these viral moments and viral, I guess, quote unquote, artists out of nowhere?
I gotta say, like, I don't follow it too much. I think that it can probably break careers, like, open for sure. Like, someone can do a bootleg remix, but not in the same way that it did for SoundCloud, like Hype Machine. You know, like, you have people like Renata that, like, were constantly, like, hitting the charts, and or Chance that were, like, whose careers were made off the back of that. It's like a different kind of base, right? Because someone on TikTok is, like, just because they like that remix, I don't know that they're gonna be. Does that mean that they're gonna, like, buy a ticket to your show? Like, would you buy a ticket to someone's show?
It might not translate.
That's what I mean, right? Versus like a body of music. So I think that's what the industry and people are trying to figure out right now.
Where it's gonna go.
Yeah, and I think it's important for artists to really find out who and where their communities are, and that could be spread across the world. Like, I've been lucky enough to tour in Europe and Asia and, like, Mexico and stuff, and it's really cool to see that music sort of feels like it's consumed differently. Yeah. Well, differently in these
for sure. I feel like Europe is much more groovy and, like, chill.
Right.
And, like, vibey, and then the US is more like drops and beats and, like, headbanging.
Yep.
Like, it's completely different.
Yep.
How did you even get your style? Like, your, like, you know, it's like funky, but, like, R&B, house. Like, where did that come from?
So, I think I was just, like, when I started DJing on like vinyl, like, back, like, at the very beginning.
It was the vinyl. I wasn't really sure.
Yeah. So, like, you would play, or I would be at these random ass, like, bar gigs where you'd play, like, 5 hours. I play, like, 5 hours on a Friday, right? And so I didn't have, like, that much vinyl back then, so I would get a lot of, like, compilations, or I'd borrow them off, like, these other, like, DJ buddies, and they had a lot of these, like, samplers that would have, like going back, like, Shanti, like, just, like, classic samplers, like Jay-Z or, like, whatever, right? Like, early
Janet Jackson.
Yeah, exactly, all that stuff, right? And I really like that stuff anyways, but I think I just kind of followed the thread from there, and I wanted to know, like, where the roots of, like, that music came from. A lot of it was from soul and jazz, and then I realized that I started listening to more, like, mixes online, like Radio 1 or whatever, and because that was, like, I didn't have access to, like, KCRW or anything up in Vancouver, and I found that a lot of my favorite records that were being played in those DJ mixes would have, like, maybe the same samples or something, and then so there's a connect there. I was like, okay, so the source material is the same, right? Like, oh, like, everyone is, you know, it's like a Four Tops sample, or it's Marvin Gaye or whatever, right? Or you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think I was just really into going down that rabbit hole of digging and figuring it out. And so, like, once I started to understand that world a little bit more, I think it influenced my style, and I just internalized it a little bit more.
And is there anything else you wanted to mention that's upcoming, or anything before I close this out?
Ooh, what's upcoming? I would say...
What is going on in your life?
Yeah. Well, I would say, like, definitely stay tuned to the socials for, I've got a couple different collabs, which I've sort of hinted at, that will be probably, you know, top of mind come the new year. Okay. As well as, like, this disco project, which, like, already in my mind it's, like, done. I just have to go and finish it.
You're like, it's quote unquote done.
but usually I don't know what this is newer for me, because usually I'm like, what am I trying to do here? Like, I don't know, and you're kind of, that's sometimes difficult. So now I'm like, oh, no, like, I know what I want to do. I already have, like, the ideas, like, in different versions.
Just have to do it.
Just go sit down and finish it. But
actually do the work.
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like in life that's kind of one of those things that we have so many options, like, all the time. You know, even, like, you go to a restaurant or whatever, you on Netflix or something, so you don't know, like, I don't know about you, but, like, I struggle with, like, if I want to watch a movie, unless there's something I've been wanting to watch, I'm like, ugh, I just, like, stare.
1 hour later.
right. So
what am I watching?
So you don't know, like, what you want to do, but then if you do know, then it's just like a lot easier.
Yeah, I'm that way with everything except food. Like I know exactly what I want to eat 24/7.
Right.
But anything else like Netflix or whatever, I'm like I don't really care. Like I don't know.
Right. which is cool to like sometimes figure out where stuff goes.
Yeah.
But it's also nice to be like, cool, I want to finish this EP. I already like know exactly what the songs are. Exactly.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll all get to hear that sooner than later when I finish it.
Cool. And I have one last question for you. What do you want to be remembered for?
Ooh. You know, oh man, that's a tough one. Yeah. I think that, sure, like it'd be nice to have a couple records that people remember me for, but just someone that like really kind of put the passion into everything that they did, and also use that to kind of uplift others. Like I'm kind of starting to reach out and like try to identify and uplift newer and upcoming producers and things like that.
Yeah.
Or like earlier on it in this whole cycle and path, and you know, hopefully we'll like. I love to nerd out, and I want to meet like the next generation of people that wants to nerd out and like do cool stuff too. And so I would like to be able to do that.
Yeah, I feel like you're very supportive and like not doing it, but giving back to people who want to go into music or events.
I feel like, you know, it takes a village, you know, like no one did it as much as we loved the concept of like the genius. Like that genius also was listening to someone else, or maybe had like a mentor, so to speak, that may have said, you know, look at it from this perspective, or don't make that decision or something.
It's true.
So.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for jumping on to Sidewalk Talk with us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.